Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to work on our functionality to create new recipes from the web. Okay. Right now we have show recipes and list recipes, which is the index page. New recipe is going to look something like this. We're going to have a form. It's going to have the name of the recipe and then the steps of the recipe. And we want to be able to submit the form to create the recipe. Okay. So first things first is I need something like this. I need this route for new recipes. I'm going to create a test for it and look for this route so that I actually have a new recipes page. So let's go and build that. Over here, I have my recipes integration test right here. And I'll write out the two tests. One should be for valid submission and one should be for invalid submission. Okay. So test create new valid recipe. Do, and then the other test should be test reject invalid recipe submissions. Do. Okay, and both of them, the first step is going to be to go to the new recipes path. So get new recipe path, get new recipe path. Save that. And let's just run the test at this time. Okay. We don't have this path, so it should fail. Okay. So I have my two errors. Over here, it says undefined local variable or method, new recipe path. So first thing, we have to define our path. Okay. So pull up routes.rb. And over here, we're going to say get recipes / new. And we want to send this to recipes controller new action. And I also want this to show up as new recipe. Okay. I don't want it to be recipes new. I don't want it to be recipe new. So I can specify how I want this to show. Actually, I have to put this within quotes. Save that. If I type in Rails routes, okay, there's the new recipe path. Perfect. So now if I run my two tests, Rails test, I have two errors. What are the errors? All right, it's saying couldn't find ID, new recipes. Okay, so this is a conflict with how I have this recipe showing up. Okay, because if you see /recipes /ID, since ID is dynamic, now it's looking for an ID of new, so it couldn't find it, so it gave me an error. Okay, so what I can do to fix it temporarily is I can command X this and I can put this after. All right, I can put the show after this. So let's see if that works, and if it doesn't, I'm going to switch over to resources because that'll work. So Rails test. Okay, so now it's working. Perfect. Now my route is there. Okay, and this basically shows you, so Rails uses a top-down way of reading this in. Okay, so it first reads this route and then it goes down to the next route. So first it found this one, so it was able to execute it. So basically, when you're working with hierarchies in routes, you have to keep that in mind. The routes with higher hierarchy should go on top. Okay. Now let's look at our error. So our error is the action new could not be found in recipes controller. Okay. So let's go ahead and add the new action. Okay. So recipes controller. Let me pull this up. Controller, recipes controller, and then define new. And run my test. Now it's going to say it's missing a view. Okay, it's missing a template. So if I add in a view, views, recipes, and then right click, new file, new.html.erb, pull it up. Use our title partial. So I'm going to say embedded Ruby equals render, and then shared page title. Title should be create a new recipe. Close embedded Ruby. Save that. This should work now. If I hit Rails test. Okay. Now if I go to /recipes/new, there you go. Create a new recipe. Here's my title. Now I have to create the form. And if you look at it, this is what the form is going to look like. Okay. So let's go ahead and add it here. For here. So for forms, there are lots of ways you can build forms. Okay. And since we're using Twitter Bootstrap, I'm going to go to Bootstrap site. And if you go to CSS and scroll down right here, forms, click on it. There you go. They have many examples. There's this basic example of how to create a form. And you have a form tag and you have all the div class form group. Then it has inline forms. It has all of these other ways of building forms. So we're going to use something like this. But one thing to remember is we're going to use Rails form for helpers. Okay, and if you use form for helper, this form tag will be created for you. Okay, so don't add this form tag into the HTML. You can add the rest in from here, but don't use the form tag. You're going to run into trouble because Rails form for will create that for you, and then there will be a mismatch. If you use a form tag, when you try to submit it, Rails won't read it in correctly. Rails won't match the token that's generated for that form tag, okay, by the form for helper. So something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and build our form. Now the standard way to build a form is this. Embedded Ruby equals form for, then you have to have the instance variable for which you are going to be creating this form, or the resource for which you're going to be creating this form. So we're going to create this for recipe instance variable. Okay, do, you can say F. So you have basically a do end block. Form for something, and then you basically go about adding in label and title, all of that. And you saw this in the To-Do app. Okay, you saw this in the To-Do app. If I pull up the To-Do app right now, right here, if I go to views and then there's my form, check it out, form for to do F, you have label, name, then you have label description, and you have the fields for that. Okay, now that's a very simple form. Since we're building a production level application here that's going to look nicer, we need to add some styling to it. So we need to give this form a class, and the class we're going to give it is from here. You can find out here whatever classes you need to give this. So what we're going to do and how we're going to assign this a class is this. Put a parentheses here. So form for at recipe, okay, colon HTML hash rocket. This is called a hash rocket. Equals and then right arrow, okay? And then open close curly brace, and within it you provide the class. So this is going to be a form of class form dash horizontal, okay, form horizontal, close the quotes, and then the role is going to be form within quotes, okay, close the curly brace for the class, close the parentheses, all right, and then do F. Okay, so now my form has a class, and I was able to do it in the Ruby way or in the Rails way instead of basic HTML. All right, and now I'm gonna jump into building this form, which I'll start doing in the next video. Before I do that, I want you to look at the different kind of forms that they have over here, and then the styling. Just read through it, get familiar with what kind of form tags create what kind of styling for you in Bootstrap. And the other thing I need you to do is I need you to pull up a browser window and type in form for helper Rails. Okay, and there you go, guides.rubyonrails.org, form helpers show up. Go there and I want you to read through this. Form 4 Helper, what it provides for you, basically walks you through what HTML tags generate and gives you a general idea for how to use form tags, okay? Because we're going to use form tags very extensively in this course. Anytime we input any information from the web, from our application, we're going to use forms. So it's a good time to get familiar with it, all right? So do that, and in the next video, we're going to start building out our form. I'll see you there.